power of play. Actually, I called it movement and play in the first 2 years. And then I also decided in the last few days, I thought, well, actually, I want to honour 3 women who have really influenced my understanding and work with families, with young children. And I want to share those with you. Maybe, hopefully, they're just ideas that maybe are new. I'm a Steiner practitioner, so we have a particular way of looking at things, and also I've trained in the Pickler approach. Does anybody here know about the Pickler approach from Hungary? No? Okay, well, I'll tell you, I'll be explaining a little bit about that. So I just want to share where I'm coming from. I'm a Steiner kindergarten trained teacher. 30 years ago, I started that journey. In 2008 or so, I started training at the Pickler Institute in Hungary, which is an exemplary approach to care of young children and also an understanding of play. 60 years, Emmy Pickler ran this orphanage in Hungary where the care was absolutely exemplary, and they did all sorts of observational research, 60 years of observational research into natural movement and play in the early years. And it works very well with Montessori, with Steiner, all sorts of different approaches to childhood. I run a course, the Holistic Baby and Childcare course, which is a level 3 nationally accredited diploma, which puts the Steiner, the Pickler, EYFS together. And that's run from Emerson College, which is a college in Sussex. And I also run, for 15 years, I've been running these parent support groups based on Steiner and mainly Pickler. And that's one thing I'm going to share with you today. And as somebody said, I'm a nursery, I go into nurseries sometimes to give the Pickler mainly. And I've also written a book and other things. So what I'm going to bring today, and I want to bring what I do, one of the things I do with is Gentle Beginnings, parent and baby groups, based on what I've learned in the Pickler approach. Okay, and then I want to talk quite briefly about the Steiner-Waldorf 1 to 3-year-old daycare model, which is about play, about self-initiated play, and about how I've seen the work of the Steiner practitioners in Europe, really. And then finally, I want to give you an example of a kind of sand play that was developed to really help not only adults learn how to play, but also provides a really focused play for young children. So some of what I'm talking about is indoor play in the first 18 months, and then the Waldorf model of daycare play, and then a particular sort of sand play. Okay, so first of all, the groups that I run, based on Steiner Pickler, have 7 and 8 parents in each group. I have the babies from 6 weeks until they're walking. And we meet for 1.5 hours a week. The aims are to guide parents I'm just going to put my glasses on, thank you. Guide parents in simplifying and building partnership with their baby, using the Pickler approach. Allow babies to go through the full natural motor progression without our interference. And I'm realizing more and more just how important this is. Babies are born with primitive reflexes that help them to get them moving. It's only by going through the full natural motor progression that they actually integrate these primitive reflexes. And if they don't, then they can cause problems later on when children go into school. And there's lots of information you can find on the web about all of this. And it's to create, as you know, a safe, supportive space where parents can easily make friendships. The friendships you make when your babies are young are the ones you keep for life, and to support each other. So I've had 15 years experience in this now. Other people have started doing it in England. There are many more groups like this in Europe and America. And I do go into nurseries. And I kind of see this as the work of nurseries, really, or in family centres where you can really work with families, supporting this understanding of how to create partnership with your baby from birth, but also this really important natural motor development. So that's the first thing I'm just going to talk a little bit about now. So this is a very simple chart that was created by an artist who was at the Pickler Institute and just observed and documented all the positions that babies get into, amazingly. So the Pickler approach is different. There's 60 years research behind this, evidence-based research, is that their understanding of natural motor development is that the baby starts on their back. And we just let them have this time on their back to discover their body, their hands. They don't use gyms. They just have, when the baby is well fed, well slept, just to have this time on their backs. At about 3 months old, the baby naturally starts turning to their side, not onto their tummy, but onto their side. And this is a really important first foundational movement, which actually helps to integrate a primitive reflex called the asymmetric tonic neck reflex, which is the one, unfortunately, which so many children go into school not having integrated properly. So this first position really helps to integrate that. About 6 months, they naturally turn onto their tummies. It might be earlier, might be later. They come to that position themselves, and then they start rolling and beginning to push themselves up more and more. By 6, 8 months, they start combat crawling, and then they come up into sitting naturally by themselves by 7 to 9 months. And because they've come into the sitting position themselves, they can get out of the sitting position, so they don't get stuck. Like a lot of children get stuck in a sitting position and they find it really hard to get crawling. If they go through this natural archetypal, natural motor development, they just go from one stage to the next, and then obviously they come up into standing. So my experience of running these groups for 15 years is that this is what happens. This is what happens. And it is a kind of archetypal progression. And when children are able to go through this fully, they come up more balanced, more integrated, more graceful in their movements. Okay? So I feel it's something that we should all have a look at, and we can learn a lot, I think, from the Pickler Institute. So the other part of the work of the Institute was to create really respectful relationships with babies. Running an orphanage, the children didn't have family and parents, so the care was needed to be exemplary, and these children came out of the orphanage healthy children. So I'm sure you know this part is to really slow down during times of bodily care, like nappy changing. Slow down, don't do anything until you've told the child what you're going to do. Wait for the baby's response. Be fully present to the baby during these times. Gentle touch, gentle voice, and see your baby as a partner with their own interests. And guiding parents in these two principles, which actually work together, you can't sort of separate them out, really helps parents to, well, it just makes parenting simpler, easier. This is quite an interesting, you might not hear me now, but anyway, this is a chart that somebody created, a Steiner person, to show how these two aspects of the Pickler approach are they're totally integrated. You see this as the calm peacefulness of the carer, giving this core of security to the child, which then they can take with them as they begin to explore their world through their gross motor development and their fine motor development. Not that we disappear, but we have two roles, one to be fully present and then to stand back and allow the child to do what they need to do. And also the baby has two needs, one for bonding and relationship, and the other to do their explorations in the fine and gross motor development. So this is what I've been doing with parents, and this, I think, has been a really helpful diagram for parents to see that they have two different roles: one to be fully there during times of care, nappy changing, feeding, changing, bathing, and then also when the baby's in a good mood, put on their backs and let them go through these stages. So what babies need, what I've learned from Emmy Pickler and the Pickler approach, is babies need appropriate play objects, they need appropriate space for rolling and crawling. More than other older children, they need appropriate play equipment, and I'll show you some examples, and they need a quiet, safe environment. What can stop the motor progression is too much tummy time, because then they might miss this really important first side position that they come back into when they come into sitting. Sitting up too early can make it really hard for the child to go through to move into crawling and all of that. Retained reflexes. Many babies are born with retained reflexes, especially if they're cesarean babies, fast births, premature babies, induced births. Babies can be born with these reflexes that don't get activated properly, and this can stop them moving. They get a lot of reflux, they don't like being on the floor, they want to be held all the time. Restrictive clothing can get in the way of natural motor progression, and especially nappies. No nappy was ever designed for movement, and unfortunately the eco ones are the worst because they're so bulky, and too much time, as we know, in containers. So many babies spend their time in containers. That's really, I think, very painful for children because they're actually programmed to move. They're really programmed to move, and when they can't do that, they almost give up at some point. But if they can't get on with it, I say to parents, they're sprung loaded to move. So how we can help babies and how I guide parents is, this might be new to you, but I say to parents, all parents, when they've had a baby, if they can afford it, or if they can get some help paying for it, to go and see a cranial sacral osteopath. So many babies are born stiff as a board because of these retained reflexes, and a cranial sacral osteopath or chiropractor can really just shift the whole problem within a few sessions. And I've seen miracles of babies who just didn't want to be on the floor, need to be held, miserable babies. After a few sessions, they kind of can come into their bodies and do what they are meant to do in this first year. This first year, 18 months, their play is about going through this gross motor development, giving them lots of space to do that, and putting the right play materials, objects around them so that they've got lots to explore and they can develop their fine motor skills as well. And the trusting in the wise infant, we feel like we need to do it for them. We need to sit them up. We need to, to help them. But actually, all we're doing is getting in their way. But a bit like play, learning, children play in the first 3 years, we need to step back and let them do their own explorations. And so it's in a group where you've got a few parents together and we go through this 18 months, they can really begin to trust the wisdom which is in the child, okay? So the best play materials, first 3 months you don't need anything at all. They need to find their hands, maybe their feet, get their orientation, being able to put their head in the central place. You don't need any toys. From 3 to 6 months, as they begin to turn onto their side, you can offer very simple toys like a handkerchief, you can get these O balls, which are very open, or this is just a basket, which is very open and easy to get hold of. As they get a bit older, 6 to 9 months, and they're on their tummies, you can offer simple objects. A lot of stuff is in the home, and I saw some lovely examples of that, of sponges and sieves and tea strainers and all sorts of things, different materials, different sizes, different shapes that you can offer to your child. You don't need to buy a lot of stuff, really. And certainly keep away from all these containers that we can put babies in. And then from 9 months, well, then the best thing they want is, of course, a cupboard that they can unpack. And and having sort of an area in the kitchen, and then onwards they go into collecting and everything once they're standing. So being in a group like this, where we can actually show the simple play materials that children can use as they develop their fine motor skills, it can be revelatory to parents, realize they don't have to buy all this stuff. And also, we use equipment. This one on the left, I call Mount Everest, and that is, as they come into crawling, they will discover this. It can be sitting in the room, and nobody will notice it for the first 6 months or so, and then suddenly they realize that it's there, and they learn all sorts of things by playing on that. And then there are other Pickler-inspired, like the tunnel, the little bridge, all the steps here that we can bring in once the children are really confidently crawling and coming up into standing. And so what we have in the room changes as each child, as the children get older. So I bring this because this is what play is. Play and movement go together in the first 18 months, very well, all the way through childhood. But this is the foundation, these early months. And the more we can allow the child to go through the natural motor progression, the more balanced and graceful they'll be as they come up into standing. So the next bit I want to just tell you very briefly about is our Steiner understanding of 1 to 3-year-old, or even 1 to 5-year-old, actually, what we do in nurseries. These are full-time nurseries. I went to visit some this summer on the continent, and go backwards one. And what seemed to be the most important thing was to have small size groups. Daycare is stressful for children, so if it's possible to have smaller groups, that's fantastic. And what is not so unique anymore, but it's been going in the Steiner movement for many years, is a walk and play outside every morning. So if a child's in daycare, to spend the morning outside. It's easier for the children, it's easier for the adults. And many will walk with the children. As soon as they can walk to a park to play and then walk back. So a lot of walking, wiring up the brain, getting a lot of physical exercise, and a strong, simple daily rhythm that doesn't change, not too many activities, not too many things happening. And if they're outside in the morning, then in the afternoon they can just have this quiet play space after they've had their nap. And of course, practicing the Pickler principles of care. And really, I just wanted to show Hella Heckman. She's the second person. Emmy Pickler, the first woman I've learned a lot from. Hella Heckman, who has a kindergarten in Copenhagen in Denmark, 25 years. She's run this kindergarten. It went outside because the house that they were using, which Hella Heckman lived in, got burnt down. There was a fire. So the kindergarten had to go outside. And she realized the importance of movement. And so every day there was a 20-minute walk to a park where they played for an hour or so. And then the older ones, these were children up to 4 to 6, they would have another 40 minutes walking back. And the younger ones would have a kind of shorter journey. And mixed age groups, 1 to 5 years old. And she's been really, really influential internationally in the Steiner movement in terms of creating this space where children spend most of their time outside. And she also has this lovely intimate garden, intimate spaces for the children to play in, to sand pits, trees, fruit trees, vegetables. a lovely space back at the ranch, as it were. And this is just one of her books with a DVD in it. I went to visit this nursery with Jan White, who apparently suggested that I came today. But I went with Jan White and Mena Godfrey to visit Hella in Denmark. And afterwards, Mena came back. She had a nursery in York at that time, and she started walking with her children every day at her nursery. And she said that the result was amazing, that the children really benefited. How many minutes? 5. Okay, that's good. Thank you. Thanks, I'm glad I saw you. I haven't even looked down. So the last thing I want to show you very quickly is a particular type of play, sand play. So this could be inside or outside. It's with very fine kiln-dried sand. Uta Strube, the third person I want to introduce. She's a wonderful 80-something-year-old woman who's bridged Steiner and Pickler and mainstream. She was a physiotherapist in her day and then moved on to helping adults to learn how to play and also helping children to learn how to focus in on play. And one thing she developed was this particular sand play using really fine kiln-dried sand, which pours like water, and adult utensils. So she goes around all of these jumble cells and such like, picking up all these adult utensils. You'll see some pictures. And she developed this building in Berlin, a shop, where the children could come in and there was sand in this particular sand in containers and all sorts of utensils, and they're absolutely free to do what they want to do with it. And the parents and the adults just step back and just allow the children to make their own experiments. And I've done this in my training, and it is a particular sort of focused play that you can go to. And so if you've got adult carers who didn't have that experience of real play when they were younger, this can really help them, this particular sort of play, to find that place. It's ultimately an indoor thing, but it could be taken outdoors. And I was just talking to somebody before, and they said, well, yeah, you could actually, if some parents are really reluctant to go outside, this could be the bridge, that you have it inside and then you sort of take this outside. All you need is, outside, you just let them do what they want with this sand. They don't have to keep it in the thing. It can go on the floor, just as long as they don't throw it at each other. Yeah, a very unique experience. So I've just got a couple of pictures here of the sort of utensils you can see, sorts of things you get in charity shops. Adult size, children love, 1.5-year-olds, 3 to 3-year-olds, they love adult sized things. They see adults use, they want to imitate what adults are doing. So this is just like a dream world. It's a kind of paradise for children where they can try all this stuff out. So I'm finishing off with a little bit of a video of, this is Jutta Strube. She's also an artist, likes doing things with sand.
Die Kinder sind von Natur aus daran interessiert, was sie tun. Nicht? Sie wollen das erkunden, was sie da gerade gefunden haben, in der Hand haben. Das interessiert sie. Und dass wir sie darin nicht stören. Nicht? Und nicht ihnen was zeigen wollen. Die entdecken alles selbst. Nicht? Und wenn sie es noch nicht entdecken, dann eben später. Nicht? Dieses Zeit geben und mit Freude wahrnehmen, was das Kind jetzt gerade entdeckt. Und da kann viel mehr Freude drin liegen, als in dem, wenn man ihm unbedingt was zeigen will. Ne? Ja. Also wir würden auch die Blaumeisen auf dem Fensterbrett nicht stören und ihnen sagen, aber dieses Körnchen musst du noch aufpicken. Ne? Wir würden uns zurückhalten. Und genau diese Zurückhaltung, dieses sich zurücknehmen, das brauchen die Kinder, um für sich die Welt zu entdecken, in ihrem Zeitmaß.
So that's what I wanted to bring, honouring 3 women, Emmy Pickler, Hella Heckman from Denmark, and Uta Strub from Germany. These are 3 women who I've learnt a lot from. And I hope I've shown you just something, maybe something you didn't know today. That would be nice. I'd like that. And here, that's my website, Pickler Co UK. I helped to set up the association, Pickler Association. They have lots of courses there, and Emerson is where I run the level 3 course from. Thank you.